Hello Dongri family, Emily back to talk about wives and godly submission in marriage. So for those of you who don't know me, I've been married for 6 years. From the beginning, before getting married, I was determined to be a submissive wife and to learn what that meant from a biblical perspective. And over time I have learned so much. I want to share that with you ladies out there, and just to show how beautiful this arrangement is in marriage, and it's nothing to be afraid of. This video is a follow-up to part 1 on 5 ways which we can submit to our husbands, and here are another 5: admiration, modesty, affection, faithfulness, and beauty. So point number 1 is admiration or approval. First of all, we need to understand the male ego and how it is different to a woman's. Men have a very pressing need to make an impression on the world and to make a big difference. And to a degree, women also have this drive, some more, some less, but the way in which a man's identity is tied up in this is very different to a woman's, and that's a subject for a whole nother video, so I'm not going to go all the way into it, but just keeping this in mind is going to help you have the correct approach when you show admiration to your husband. So first of all, it is most important to be genuine. If you don't genuinely have an appreciation for things he's doing or his qualities, it will come off as fake and forced and contrived. So we have to start with the heart and what you genuinely think about your husband. Now, as a wife, we have a unique position in this because we can actually show a genuine appreciation for things that other people are overlooking or taking for granted. A lot of the times our men are doing mundane things or difficult things that other people don't realize is as hard as it is, and you as the wife see the strain that it puts on him, and you can verbally express your appreciation for what he does or your admiration for his tenacity, his strength of will, his ability to push through, or the grace with which he carries this heavy burden. So a lot of the time this is tied in with his vocation, so whatever he's doing as a career, that is the one thing that is going to put the most strain on him. So some examples of how to express it. So some examples, he walks in through the door, it's been a long hard day of work, and you put everything down, you give him your full attention, and you give him a warm welcome in whichever way he likes. You know, you're his wife, you should know that is just one way of expressing to him that you are thankful to see him and you approve of him. It is a way of approving of your husband. The opposite of that would be hardly recognizing him entering the house. That is a sign of dismissal, as if you begrudge him. Even if you don't, it's unclear. You need to be very clear that you approve of him. A second thing you can do is to really pay attention when he's fixed something, when he's built something or done anything that makes a change in the home or at work. If there's anything you're aware of that he's done, really take some time to pay attention to what he's done, to thank him or to admire the way he did it. That's even better. If you can see a way in which he did it that's truly commendable or respectable, as in he demonstrated skill, he really did a good job, as in it's a strong end result and it's going to stand the test of time, or he did it so fast, or he made a really good decision in the way he did it. You can point out those things, and as long as you genuinely feel that those are good points, don't make stuff up, because that's very obvious. You'll quickly see when you're overdoing it or when you've really hit the nail on the head. So it does take practice as well. A lot of these things take practice. But it's so worth it, and it really strengthens him and gives him that conviction in his skills, which men don't always see. They don't always appreciate what they actually have, because as women, we are not endowed in the same way they are. We have other things that they don't have, and they have things we don't have, and we are the ones who can see those things because we're attracted to those things, as in strength and rigor and mental strength, willpower, force, aggression, all those things that makes a man a real man. As women, we can more clearly see those things and appreciate them and express appreciation for those things. All right, let's move on to modesty. Scripture is quite clear on modesty for women. I'll read to you 1 Timothy 2 verse 9. In like manner also that women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with broidered hair or gold or pearls or costly apparel. There are 2 points that stand out in the scripture to me, and that is the modest apparel. And the shamefacedness and sobriety. Now, I believe these are both aspects of modesty. So modesty falls into 2 categories, and that is our physical appearance, the way we present ourselves, and our behavior. There is a modesty in behavior. I'd like to just run through what makes modesty so important, and the responsibility we have as women to cooperate with men in this aspect, because I think a lot of girls actually just don't understand how serious this is. I don't believe in wrapping yourself up in cloths and hardly being visible. I think it's good to be attractive, but there is a line where we become provocative, and that's what I want to talk about. As girls, we really need to understand that we have beautiful bodies and they have a purpose. They have been designed in a certain way, and men have been designed in a certain way to be highly, highly attracted to the female form. And when we dress in a way that invites sexual attraction, we are triggering a man's brain in a way that he has almost no control over, especially if we are doing it in a provocative way. There's a way to dress becomingly and attractively without being provocative, and that is without making a sexual appeal. Yes, on the one hand, men should be strong and resist temptation, but as women, we don't have to dress in a way that makes it harder for them. We have to be cautious and discreet and think twice about what we're wearing, and also think twice about our motives for why we're wearing what we're wearing. Let us use clothing for their fitting purpose and not be ignorant of what we are doing when we don't. Then the behavioral aspect of modesty would be shamefacedness and sobriety. And I've spent some time looking into these words and what they might mean in actual practicality. Shamefacedness, I have concluded, means having a conscience. So you would not conduct yourself in a shameful way, and because you have a clean conscience, you won't want to do those things. So when I think of shamefacedness, the opposite of that would be often those looks you get from the models, like giving you that stony stare in the magazines. I would not associate that with shamefacedness. That is more a brazenness, which to me is the opposite. So we want to cultivate a sweet, gentle spirit that has a certain degree of mystery. We are not laying ourselves bare to everybody. We are not giving all our beauty out to any Tom, Dick, and Harry. It's something, the more vulnerable, tender parts of our beauty we keep for our husbands. So that is how it ties in with modesty. Sobriety refers to not being given to folly and being wise and genuine, not always looking for the highs and the hype and being stimulated, because that's a frivolous kind of woman. We are not frivolous women. We are still full of joy. We have happiness, but we are grounded, and we are not foolish and looking for sensation and experience all the time, because that is just empty and it just leads to wastefulness, and you can't build anything with that kind of mentality, including your marriage. We take on our yoke, our work, the work we have to do in our marriage, the work we have to do in our homes, gracefully, and we don't yearn for some escape and some dopamine high that can just free us from the work we have to do. All right, let's move on to point number 3, and that is affection. This is another way to reinforce your submission, and affection can be done in a patronizing way or a uplifting, honoring way. So let's go through the different ways. This is something we give freely to our husbands. It should hopefully not become something your husband has to repeatedly ask for. And yes, some men are not particularly physical, or their love language might be one of the other 5. If you haven't heard of them, there are supposedly 5 love languages that people tend to fit into, and they would be gifts, physical touch, quality time, service, and affirmation. So physical touch is, to a degree, something most humans need, and there are ways in which we can show affection that is not very cloying or suffocating, because some men can get suffocated by our physical neediness. So if your man is more on the don't touch me side, then there are still some simple things we can do that show we are physically open to them. All these physical acts have symbolic meaning, which is why it's so important how we do it. That would even be as simple as sitting nearby him to show that we're on good terms with each other, and you're by his side through everything. Another example would be to be putting your hand on his knee. This means partnership and teamwork, but it also means you see him as your leader, like you are wanting to be led by him. At least this is how I see it. To give him a kiss means you are sexually available to him. If you are not interested in a kiss, then things are not going to go very far. A snuggle would mean you desire his protection, or you see him as your protector. So all these little things we do can indicate our subjugation to our husbands in a very loving and fond way. And there are ways which we can do it patronizingly, including patting him on the shoulder or the head. That is a big no-no. Just never do that, because that's a very motherly sort of thing to do. If he ever does come and give you a kiss or a gentle touch, respond to it with appreciation, even if it's a simple smile or just turning around and showing your gratitude in one way or another, or even returning in kind. All those things can show you are available, you are responsive, and this does tie in with submission. It's very subtle, but it makes a difference. By doing this, we are showing our husbands honor, because we're willing to put in that extra bit of effort. We believe that they are important and they are worth the effort, and by this we are showing that we're showing them honor. Point number 4 would be faithfulness. Now this is all about being chaste in your heart as well as the things you do. You want to be sure that you are committed to him all the way in everything. The thoughts you have, the things you want, you are satisfied with his love. Do not look anywhere else. I want to go into the grey areas of this, because there are areas in which we can defend ourselves and say, oh, it's just friendship, or it's just that or this. Number one, male friends. I don't believe men and women can be friends on a merely platonic basis. I think men and women are highly designed to be attracted to each other, and when they share any amount of time together and any degree of close companionship, there's going to be a certain degree of attraction. You can try to keep it purely on a friend's basis, but the truth of the matter is, you're a woman, you have female attraction, and he's a man and he has male attraction. So it's going to be really hard, and I don't think it's worth risking your marriage relationship for a male friend. And I might sound like I'm being dramatic about this, but things can escalate before you realize it. You don't always know how that other man feels about you, or how things have developed in his heart and mind. These things are complex, and it's not really worth entertaining an illusion about this. I'm not saying we can't have conversations with each other, or spend time together, but when it becomes a close relationship and you spend a lot of time alone together or talking to each other, I think you are running a risk, and it's not wise. Then what can also happen is flirting. It's so important as women that we don't look to other men for validation. When we speak to them, we shouldn't be using our charms. We shouldn't be looking for special favors. We also want to be sure not to confide in other men, especially vulnerable or personal information that could create a bond between the two of you. That's generally what secrets do. So we must just be aware, be wise. It's not as if this is a black and white matter, but it is something we should keep in mind. Once again, of course, you can ask your neighbor to help you with something. Of course, a man can carry your shopping bags for you. But just bear in mind that these are the things that can cause attachments between men and women. So you don't want to reinforce it, and you don't want to look for these things from other men if you don't need to. And lastly, I want to talk about beauty. Now, I know this is a difficult one for all of us. Even the most beautiful women don't feel beautiful, or at least all of the time. The wonderful thing about beauty is it's not fixed upon features or youth. The thing that will make us most beautiful to our husbands is our submission to them and our desire to please them. Most men would not really bring the subject up because they want us to be happy, and they don't want to insult us or make us angry or something. So it really is up to us to take the initiative and make the effort to make ourselves pretty for them. And even the act of doing that makes us prettier to them. So it's a win-win. And it's a good idea to ask him what he likes. Some men don't like makeup, overalls, or whatever it is. Every man has his preference. Be sure to take trouble in those areas so that he can see how you respect him. A large part of marriage for men is ownership. They take ownership of their wives. And if she doesn't see herself as his property, then she will just do as she pleases and not change anything about herself for his sake. And that is what the world is telling us to do. She will be possibly nicely dressed, well turned out, have good taste, a nice body, but her mind and her heart is not his. It's almost as if the marriage is not fully completed if the wife hasn't fully given over everything. And once again, this is a picture of Christ and the bride, how the bride seeks the will of God in everything, and is constantly attuned and listening for how to best please, and also gives over everything and becomes what Christ wants her to become. So as much as the world is telling us, don't let anyone change you, be unapologetically yourself, don't let anybody tell you what to do, it's contrary to scripture. The only person who truly understands human psychology is God, and He has given us guidelines for our lives, and if we follow them and actually test them out, they are the most rich and blessed. Perhaps not the most showy or the most impressive, but that is where everything comes together and everything makes sense, and your heart and your soul and your mind come to complete rest is at the feet of Christ. I'm going to finish off with that, and I would like to be discussing in my next video some myths about submission. I have seen a lot of people jump to conclusions very quickly when I bring up the word and the word submission, and I would like to address those myths because they are completely almost opposite to what people who are unfamiliar with the word assume it to mean, and there are all sorts of connotations attached to it. Have a good week, and I hope this video was helpful. Please give it a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Keep well, love you guys, and stay strong. Bye.